recorder and give you a heads up that we are going to be recording this call. I hope you're comfortable with that. Um, and then I want to just give you a little bit of context for what we're going to be doing over the next hour. So first off, the world of wealth is shifting dramatically fast. There's more pressure, there's higher expectation, we all have limited time. And what I'm hoping we can do in this meeting today is we're really going to be talking about real world proof. What's working, what's rooted in the research and evidence, a little bit about the latest, greatest behavioral finance, and how it's being applied in very human-centric, planning-based practices. And that's what I'm really excited for you to hear directly from Emily about from Archer. With respect to just some ground rules for this call, we would like it to be interactive. We would love for you to share your questions in the chat or raise your hand. We would love to hear your voices and see your faces if possible. As we're going through the conversation, what we're most interested in is what do you want to learn more about? What is it that you're curious about whether uh, digital behavioral finance can be applied to in your practice? How are you thinking about applying behavioral finance into your practice? And so those use cases and what you want to learn more about are kind of the key themes that we'd love to get your thoughts on. So we are going to go ahead and get kicked off. Thank you again for being here and appreciate all of you making some time for us. We had 80 folks sign up, over 80 actually. So we might have more people trickle in, and a lot of people signed up knowing that they would get the recording afterward, and that's fine too. So I'm going to just start with a quick introduction on myself, and then I'll pass it to Emily and then to Meg, and then we'll dive right in. So I'm Marla Sofer. I'm the founder of Nomi. I have been in wealth and asset management for about 25 years. I was a licensed advisor and a private banker in Manhattan with high net worth clients in South and Latin America. And then I kind of went down this very deep operational path where I worked at JP Morgan in the world of global custody. And my clients were asset managers for 6 years through the financial crisis. I worked at BlackRock for 5 years, where I was responsible for BlackRock operations and relationships with banks, index licensors, and data. And 10 years ago, I had this awakening where I was like, I've got this great job, have had incredible experiences at the best of the best, JP Morgan and BlackRock, but I don't feel like I'm helping people live a better life. And that was really something that for me, I wanted to embrace in my career journey. So I took a route into fintech. I've been in fintech for the last 10 years. I've run partnerships at 4 fintech companies, including wealth tech. And I spent 2 years at Microsoft looking at what is the future of the financial industry. All of that brought me to there is so much tech out there to help you personalize your offering, to really dive deep into what your clients need, to create the future of personalized portfolios, direct indexing, however you want to call it. What we don't have available to us is consistent information about our clients to help them make better decisions, to live a better life in the way that they define that. And that was the problem I got obsessed with. And that was my journey to launching Nomi. Um, so I'll pass it over to Emily to introduce herself, and then Emily over to Meg, and then Meg, you just take it from there and dive right in.
I can do that. Sounds good. Hi, everybody. Emily Rassam. I'm an advisor at Archer Investment Management. We're a fully virtual RIA, technically based out of Austin, Texas. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, 19 years in the business. So we serve mid-career tech professionals and pre-retirees mostly, 350 million assets under management, about 220 households that we work with. And so I will tell you more about my journey when it comes to my turn, about kind of how BeFi has kind of evolved so much over my career, almost 2 decades in this business, and how excited I am to have some new tools that help support that process.
Awesome. I am Dr. Megan Lertz, and I love financial psychology. Like that would be the summation of my career and work, and certainly the wonderful time that I've had working with Marla for the past couple of years, and now getting to work with Emily. It's been wonderful. I research, I write, I teach at university, I teach at Shaping Wealth, I work at a place called Beyond the Plan. I spend, I would say, half my day every day talking to advisors about their clients and more than just like about, normal financial planning questions like about insurance or about estates. I'm usually talking to them about how they feel, how their clients feel, what just happened, in their life and how this is going to impact their plan and the best way to present that, in order to get traction and in order to have a conversation about this thing that we all have to work with, but none of us quite know how to do it in the way that I say it might be a little different than the way that they say it. And then there's this communication that sort of breaks down. And so I think if I can, where I'm going to take the floor for a second and just sort of talk about, the opportunity that is brought by Nomi, but also, by starting in this idea of this challenge, given how often I'm talking to advisors and the things that I'm talking to advisors about, money is a language. Money is a language. And very, very few of us are fluent. And I know that advisors often think that they are fluent. I mean, I've talked to Emily many times, and I can tell you, Emily definitely knows what she's talking about. But the thing becomes like, how well do we understand when the client says it like this? Am I understanding it like that? Or when I say it like this, is the client understanding it like that? And some research to throw at you to maybe explore this a little bit further in this idea of fluency, this idea of emotional insight, that comes from our money and the way that we talk about it. There was this amazing study that was done by Kansas State, Allianz, and Money Quotient. This was actually the original study was done maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and recently within the past 3 or 4 years, they did this newer version of the study. And what they found in that, there was a ton of stuff. The study was amazing. So for one of the things that made it cool was they had client advisor dyads. So you got to hear from the advisor and then you got to hear from that advisor's client. So it wasn't just like random groups of people where we're making assumptions. We actually understood the underlying relationship. And as an example of what I'm talking about in this sort of idea of fluency and do they really understand? Do we really understand, or is this breaking down? The thing that happened is in that study, they asked the clients or they asked the advisors, do you talk about your client's family? Do you talk about their values? Do you talk about their goals? Do you understand your client's history? And across the board, the advisor said, in the 80 and 90%, oh yeah, we 100% we do that. They asked the clients the exact same questions. And across the board, the advisors or the clients replied 30%, 40%, sometimes 50%, but certainly nowhere near 90%. And I don't want you to walk away thinking like, oh, well, those advisors must have just been horrible. No, no, no. Many of these advisors were like our students from Kansas State University. These are well-trained advisors that know how to have these conversations. And I 100% believe the advisor that they were having it, that they were talking to the client about values. But for whatever reason, the client didn't interpret it in that way. Maybe they had something else going on. And so even the advisor is having a conversation with them about values. They can't seem to let go, of this other stress that's sort of clouding their ability to pay attention or understand or have this sort of financial fluency of language between the advisor and the client. I believe I work with a very wonderful subset of advisors all over the world that want to go there with their clients, that want to talk about emotion and values and family and legacy and stuff that's hard. And that's hard. That's extremely hard to do, even in the CFP programs that we have today, and even in the programs that, whether it's Shaping Wealth or Money Quotient or, any number of these wonderful programs that are built around helping advisors to learn more behavioral finance. Unless you're taking that information home and immediately talking to a client, it takes a lot of practice. It is, I say all the time, communication is a contact sport. The only way to learn it is to play in real time with other people. I'm a Chiefs fan, and although we've been playing like crap the past couple of games, Patrick Mahomes did not walk onto the field after reading one book about football and say, this is how you do it. No. And so I think what's really important here is that even the advisors that are trying super hard, you're using forms, you're using question banks, you're getting training, there's an inconsistency that can sometimes come from the side of the client, and it can be difficult to bridge that. It can be very hard to, even if you're paying a lot of attention, to summarize back, perfectly and synthesize back perfectly, what the client has said. And so then bias creeps into the words. We have inconsistency in our parts. And so the opportunity that I am so excited about, that continue to be excited about working with Nomi for a couple of years now, that Nomi is a bridge that can help bring this idea of transparency, influency, personalization, readiness, understanding how ready your client is to make a decision, different measurable outcomes, how confident are they feeling? Happiness and trust. Like Nomi can help to provide an additional or a supporting sacred space, for having these conversations. I believe truly that Nomi preserves client language, and that is what creates the space that is so important, that because of Nomi, both the advisor now and the client get to inhibit. And because we have or inhabit, and because we have these lovely little paths that people get to go through, we know and they know that we've gone through the values module. Like it's very clear that we've had that conversation. So the risk, I guess, of not using Nomi, even if you're a well-trained behavioral finance expert, great advisors can't summarize everything. And even with all the AI note takers, they miss, the nuance of just the conversation itself. And so that sort of failure to communicate then back, that ultimately is what leads to potential churn or lower performance, and just how clients and advisors, feel about their work. And with that, I'm so glad that Emily is here, because she can tell you how it's helped her.
Yeah, thank you. And you used one of the words that I think of when I think of using a system like Nomi is that consistency, and also getting there faster. Because sometimes that fluency that you get with that really good client that you have, that relationship that you build, it takes time and it takes a lot of practice, and especially with that client. So if you can think of, each of you on this call can think of your favorite client, your best client that you know well, and the planning work that you can do for them because you know them. It's significantly different, right? Because when they call you and ask, hey, I have $20,000 extra in my checking account, should I invest it? Oh, but I know you guys are talking about buying a Sleep Number bed, right? Because that's something that you have going on, and your dog just had surgery. And what if you need more? What if there's more medical support needed behind that? And what's going on with them and their lives and what's important to them. And so when you think about the clients you've had for a long time, that, and you can kind of synthesize all these things about them. And so as you're giving them advice on their estate plan or their tax plan or insurance needs or the retirement projection, you kind of already can create this prioritization in your head because you've developed that relationship and that client. And you can all think of who that client is or who those people are. But I also know everyone on this call can't say that about every single client that they have. Mm-hmm. And so the problem that I had is, how do I replicate this relationship and process? And as I'm growing, I've added team members, and I've had to, rely on delegating to survive, right? Delegate or die in this business. So you need paraplanners and support people, and the people who are supporting you on the investment side or other parts of the relationship, to also be able to more quickly understand and know your client as well. So when I kind of thought about and started to learn more about the psychology aspect kind of bleeding in, and the behavioral finance piece years ago, I listened to many podcasts with people like Dr. Megan Lertz and other people in this industry who helped me understand great questions to ask to maybe get there faster. But as I was even developing my skill set in building and developing those relationships and feeling like I know those clients, there still wasn't that consistency. Either we're so busy in that meeting, we just didn't get to those really cool questions I learned on that podcast, or I read in that one book, Or maybe the client didn't feel as receptive, so I didn't kind of go there with them, maybe as far as I would have with clients that were more open. And so every client has a very different experience with you. And so even though you might feel like you're well trained and you understand how to have a good conversation and to build those relationships, because you have proof of some good client relationships that are in that way, it's how do you then scale that? How do you then multiply and amplify what you're doing? And so to solve that originally, what I was doing is just this ad hoc process of let me take all these really cool questions that I've developed. I'm a collector of questions. So I listen to these different podcasts, I read books just from practicing. And ooh, that question kind of hit well. And it brought me into a really neat conversation with this client. I'm going to save that question. These question banks. So I turned those into these questionnaires I would send to clients to help to gather in their words their answers to some of these questions. But also, I also learned that not everybody's an extrovert like me and wants to be asked those questions on the spot in a meeting. And so I learned that the power of maybe clients that are more introverted or want to think a little bit more might want some time to reflect on what that answer might be, or might feel put off by asking that question right on the spot in the meeting. And so preparing clients ahead of time, I started to send those questions to say, hey, these are some questions I'd love to ask you in the meeting if you're open to it. I give you some time to reflect on that so you're not surprised by this question, and sending those questionnaires. But it was still this kind of disjointed effort of sending out these different questionnaires. And some of the feedback that I got from clients was, well, maybe I wasn't really ready to answer all of that in this job form that you sent me, and I couldn't go back to it and I couldn't read my answers again. And so I kind of had this problem of, I know I want to collect this information. I know I want to send questions ahead of time. And I know that I want to know my clients in a way that creates this profile in their words about them. And so I kind of had built this ad hoc way of doing that. And I was seeking a software that would help support that. And I was absolutely thrilled when we found Nomi and started working with it, because it created this dashboard of my clients' information that they're able to then go back and see in their words, so that whether it's myself or a teammate who are talking to the client, they can repeat back those specific values. And I know that you shared this information with us, and synthesize that into the financial plan so that we are then able to give better advice and connect to their priorities and understand them better. And that's really what I think is a game changer in our industry. And one kind of proof point for that was when I started to see the reviews change in Wealth Tender, Google, places that we collect reviews. My clients started to say, after going through these types of processes, so going through the questionnaires that we were sending, going through Nomi, the reviews that we were receiving from clients said they really took the time to get to know us. There was no plug and play here. They really understood what we needed and delivered on that. And so it feels like there was a shift in how clients started to talk about us as well. And being able to then state, we have a specific goals and values meeting that we do as part of our intake process, because I read that study too and understood that clients, even though you're asking them some goal and value oriented questions peppered into other conversations, their takeaway is, how am I going to pay for college? And so they're listening for the answers that solve the problems that they have. And they don't really maybe know that they're being beefied in that meeting in any way. And so we really decided to segregate that out into a separate meeting in our onboarding process. So we tell our prospective clients, this is what's going to happen to you. When you come on board with us, you are going to have this series of meetings, one being a goals and values meeting. We explain that we have a system that helps us collect their responses and give them the opportunity to respond to us in that way. And then we'll have a conversation to dig deeper into the responses and maybe figure out what actionable goals come out of this that I want to then build into your financial plan. And then I kind of picture this magic wand. I always like to surprise and delight my clients too, and pepper in those fun little things, like those offhanded comments that come out of that meeting. So a client who likes to RV a lot, and they just kind of joked with each other about, wouldn't it be fun to have a little 3-wheel motorcycle thing to just bop into town from our RV camp? And so in their financial plan delivery meeting, I had a little 3-wheel motorcycle built into their plan, right? So the more that you learn these fun little pieces about them, they get that, oh, you heard me. and you understood this kind of fun little surprise that you can put into the financial plan that is unique and tailored, custom tailored to me and custom tailored to my goals and custom tailored to my priorities and my values. And so now I don't want it to be missed that that's part of our process, because it's something that we do before we look at tax returns, before we look at estate planning documents, before we look at anything else. We establish that goals and values meeting with the Know Me process, with those journeys, in order to get to know our client, to have that buy-in that we are going to get to know them and synthesize all of that information into the plan that we're going to build. We're getting documents back faster, and people are noting and seeing that difference in that process. So it's been a game changer to have that all streamlined for us, and to have a place that houses all of that information that our clients can also go back and see and reflect on and change. And I'm really excited for the additional journeys that are coming out too, that we can expand on this work and say, here's how we started with these clients, and here's what we're adding next. So we're going to keep them on a path to continue to get to know them and ask some different types of questions depending on their needs, their life stage, where we are in our planning process with them, and be able to consistently deliver that one really cool question that I want to ask them. I'm asking every single client, because I have a system that will help support that process and drive a better meeting for me in that goals and values process.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Fantastic. Emily and Meg, thank you. I appreciate everyone kind of bearing with and listening to, hey, here is what we're hearing from kind of working with advisors, all the work that Meg does all the time, and the language of money and how complicated that is, how personal it is. Emily's insights were very relevant. For me personally, maybe this is why you raised it. My dog just went through unexpected, very expensive surgery. And it was a really emotional thing. It was extremely hard. In fact, he's still in the hospital. Thank God he's doing okay. But it was something that was very challenging for my family. And I feel that the the training of our mind to this is an emergency that we're okay, we're prepared for, we can handle this, we are ready for unexpected emergencies, helped actually resolve things when our attention should all be on the dog, and trying to make him healthy again. So I'm just going to walk through a quick couple of slides, and then I will go into a demo of Nomi. And I want to encourage you to please continue to raise questions in the chat. We want to also hear your objections. What are some questions where you're, unsure about how this will work? So when I talk to advisors, I generally start out with, here's what I'm hearing from other people, not you. I'm sure your business is amazing. What I'm hearing from other folks that are trying to build their advisory business is that they have a hard time converting prospects. I heard talk to an advisor yesterday who said maybe one out of between 50 and 100 meetings converts to actually becoming a client. Prospecting is hard. Number two is, we know this stat, 81% of kids are going to fire their parents' advisor. And we also know that the average client is well into their 60s. And so as you are having this transition of wealth, how are you building the relationship with the next generation to avoid that, what at least the stats say is kind of inevitable churn? How do you not make it inevitable? Three is, a lot of advisors are spending a lot of time on non-advisory activity. They're doing so much process. And Emily referenced this, Meg referenced this. You have planners and paraplanners, and you have a service team. You might have an estate team. You might have a tax team. All of those different teams struggle to have the same baseline of information about the client. So they're all achieving that same high bar of service that you want your business to show up with day in and day out every time. Finally, is clients have said, I'm not sure my advisor understands me. That for me resonates as well. And it made it really hard to choose an advisor. And so how are you maintaining that level of depth and understanding that's resilient, not only through changes on their end? You might have changes on your end. You might have advisors coming and going. You might have planners coming and going. You might have, emergencies in your practice. And so what we're aiming for, the pain we're looking to resolve, is building resilience on both sides. Resilience through client changes, resilience through advisor changes, to make sure that the business stays whole and can convert and stay strong. So the hypothesis at Nomi is that deep connection happens when clients feel understood. A lot of the discovery tools that exist today are very focused on tell me about your assets. Tell me about the assets you have, the transactions you make, everything that you own. Everything you own doesn't tell me a lot about you. It might tell me where you have a home, it might tell you what you have in your portfolio, but it doesn't tell me about what you want to do in the future. It doesn't help me make a decision to guide you to that vision of the future. So actually, this goes back to getting really geeky for a moment. When I was at Microsoft, what I learned is that any data that exists in the world is pretty commoditized. Any transaction you've made, any balance in any portfolio you have, any time you get in the car and drive around, even eye movements on your screen, somebody can buy that data. That data is for sale. What is impossible and extremely high value is what are you feeling and what do you want for the future? That is unknown data. There's no way to get that information. What NOMI focuses on is what's called zero-party data. Another way of saying that is straight from the horse's mouth data. We are engaging the client to share their vision of the future and what they care about because it helps them get more value from you and it helps you deliver more value to them. So every advisor we talk to is some version of we want to be a hub. We want to have all-in clients that want to use all of the services that we can bring to bear to help them live a better life. And what we're trying to do is squeeze them closer to you. Help them become that all-in client by helping you understand insights that will help you know exactly how to talk to them. Going back to what Meg was saying, that level of fluency in their language of money. So today in the wealth industry, we all have a pretty good handle on this little circle, your finances. What are your transactions, your balances? Your client might not love it, but when they onboarded into that planning tool, they took, whatever time it was, they sent you copies of their statements. Fine, they did it. All of these other components, these are the harder to get things. They might not even know how to tell it to you. They don't know how to talk about their money psychology. You might not be a PhD in psychology like Meg and might not know how to ask. You might not know how to work it out of them so that you're getting the right information at the right time consistently. Now, why would you even want this information? Because research proves that it grows your business. You will achieve 30% more conversion. You will have a 50% growth in your financial planning pipeline. Why? Because you know what you're aiming for. You're not just planning to help them achieve what I consider two arbitrary numbers is what most plans hook into. So one is the age of your retirement, and two is the age you die. So if everyone is focused on the age of retirement and the age you die, how are you differentiating your business? How are you creating a much more robust financial plan that recognizes how do you want to live that life? How do you want to support your family? What does good look like? What does engaging look like to you? What kind of trips do you want to take? What kind of philanthropies do you want to give to? How do you want to see your life post-salaried work? Do you want to be on boards? Do you want to be a caretaker? Do you want to find another gig job? Retirement does not have the same definition today as it did in the past. And wealth needs to kind of come up this evolution to recognize that. So in addition to that, as what Emily said, clients felt more understood. NPS shoots up. Your ROI for your business improves when clients get a better experience and it translates to more revenue. So this is the why. What does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means that you're getting faster acquisition, improving your retention, boosting advisor productivity, you're giving way better experiences, and you're enhancing efficiency. By the way, I'll send you all of these slides if you want to refer to them later. I want to show you one more thing before we dive into the demo. When would I use this tool that I'm about to see, that you're about to show me, Marla? So here are the when you would use it. You would use it to start strong, prospecting, onboarding, before a meeting. You would actually use it to get a better sense of who is this client that has entrusted me or I want to entrust me to help them make better financial choices for their life. You would then use NOMI to stay relevant. A couple of days before you go into your quarterly review meeting, you would actually send them a link to NOMI and help them share, how are you feeling now? What's top of mind? What are the things you care? How have your visions of the future changed? What's changed in your family? So you might do that verbally. In fact, all advisors do in the review meeting. but you're spending a lot of the time asking the question instead of reacting to, here's how I can actually improve your plan as a result of me already knowing it. So now that I know it, I can use that time to give you real value, to actually share with you, you know what I would recommend based on what you said. That's where you would go from there. Finally, because Nomi is digital, everyone sees the same record at the same time. Every single one on your team, your advisor, your planner, your paraplanner, your estate guy, your tax guy, your management team, the ones that are looking at how do we grow our business? Where do we grow our business? How many of our clients want to retire in Tucson versus Miami? When you know that information consistently, you can make better decisions as a business. So it is the slicing and dicing of data, to get very deep into the geeky side of Nomi, that really led me to launch this business. All right, with all of that, I'm very excited to go ahead and dive in and show you the platform. But before I do, any questions, any thoughts? I don't see the chat very active, so I'm just going to kind of urge you to share questions as they come up, and feel free to cut me off. And thank you, Don, for the very kind private message about the dog. He's doing better. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nomi is a very easy, low friction app to use. I'll give you a view of it, but basically it is a hyperlink that advisors can use. We don't need any client data to get started. It is embedded into your workflow. So an advisor gets a link, which I will actually go ahead and start the demo right now so you can see it. And then they actually,
while
sorry?
you're pulling up, the one thing I'll say too is when we've sent clients through it, we ask for feedback immediately in the first meeting to say, hey, we sent you through this software. It's newer to us. Can you tell us how you feel about the experience? Every single person said it was easy. And so the process for them was very easy because we were hesitant also to have clients send them to one other place, having a financial planning software and all these other softwares. But we've had very positive feedback from clients directly that it was an easy process for them to go into and it didn't create any confusion about different logins or portals with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for raising that point. And what we've heard from other, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
We do have a question that I think you're about to answer, but I just want to make sure. Daisy wrote, is Nomi a separate app that advisor lets their client register, or is it integrated with the firm's existing platform?
The answer is it can be both. So it is very reliant on how do you want to deploy Nomi. And so we do have enterprise clients and we have smaller RIAs. And so an RIA might not have all of the technology to integrate with their SSO and their front end and all of the things that are required. We do have partnerships that we're working on with some tools. There's a lot of tools out there that are just creating orchestration layers of the front end. What are all of the different apps that a client can access through me as an advisor? What are all of the apps that my advisor can access through me, through this, integrated platform? So we're talking to several of those. But the answer to that question is it depends. Yes, yes, and yes, we can do either. So I'm going to show you the client experience really briefly, and then I'm going to jump over into the advisor experience, and I welcome additional questions. And please feel free to interrupt me if you do have questions, raise your hand, put it in the chat. What I'm going to show you here is what we call the journey to helping them articulate their goals. So Nomi is a collection of short gamified adventures. And the adventures that you're seeing here, financial joy, confidence, my outlook on life, my vision of the future and goals, are building on each other. They're little data bricks that keep kind of compounding one on top of the other to help make it easy for them to articulate their goals in a way that's meaningful and actionable to you. So an example of a good goal is, I want to take another vacation this year to Europe, and I want to invite my whole family. Here's how many people are in that family, and I want it to be a cruise. That is a very clear, actionable goal. An example of a not so great goal for an advisor is, I don't want to be a burden on my kids. We all don't want to be a burden on our kids. What does that actually mean? How do we know you got there? Can we put a circle around that and say, done, achieved, stamped, you're not a burden on your kids? It is very hard for an advisor to do that. So what we're trying to do is create meaningful, actionable goals that help them put a circle around it and say, you helped me get there. Now we've got a milestone achieved. I've found happiness and fulfillment because you helped me articulate what living better means, and we got there. We've actually achieved that milestone. So anyway, I'll go right in. So as they're going into financial joy, we explain to them, why does this matter? Why are you asking me about joy? I thought I hired you to help me manage my money. Well, as it happens, I'll refer to Meg's shirt that she's wearing today, if anyone can see. Happy is the new rich. Happy matters. What a wealth manager can help you do is live better. Help me understand what that even means in my life. So for me, maybe I want to understand what money is a tool to help me achieve. This is what I tell advisors is the buzzword experience. What are the buzzwords that you should be bringing up with your client that help them feel understood and heard? Maybe for them, money is comfort. It's supporting my family. If that's true, those are the words you use. You use those way more than you would ever say security or independence. It is those words that they said. If they don't see the word here, they can write it in and they can tell us what the word is. Here is where we go through a little swiping game of what do you want to do more, the same, or less of in your life? Let's say I want to work less. I want to do some less financial planning, more health, more family, more hobbies, more travel, maybe same on my home life. And then we ask some very open-ended questions. What was a recent experience that brought you joy? They can answer this however they like. That's it. 3 quick questions. That's the whole thing, at least as it relates to this one adventure. We go through behavioral loops in Nomi. Every adventure starts with a beginning, middle, and end. We set it up, we explain to them why it matters, we go through a quick gamified experience, and then we give them immediate value. How many other people say that they want money for comfort and supporting family? And why again did joy matter? Why are you asking me this? We explain it so they know. They get an AI image of here is what joy looks like to you based off of what you shared. Here is what money is a tool to help you achieve. This is what you want to do more the same and less of in your life. As they go through this, they get a badge, they get some confetti, and they move on to the next one. So as they're building up in Nomi, each of these adventures, as I was saying before, compounds on each other. They work through financial joy, confidence, what their hopes and dreams are, what are the things keeping them up at night. Each of the adventures is fun and gamified. They envision their future. I'll just give you a quick glance at this. When we go through envisioning their future, in fact, all of these tools, you might have noticed that that swiping exercise kind of looks familiar to some of you who might have ever tried Tinder. I gotta say, not me. I'm a little bit too old for that. Maybe not yet. I don't know. But the idea is Nomi should feel familiar. They don't have to learn how to use it. They've already been taught. It is like a lot of other wellness and experiences out there in the digital landscape where they have been that we've learned that these are engaging, fun experiences. So in this one for future you, we start off with this. What is this? It makes you feel like calm or headspace. Take a moment, breathe. Thinking about your future requires a bit of a pause. Just like calm and headspace encourage you to do, meditate. And what we want you to be thinking about is where are you? What are you doing in this vision of the future? Who are you with and how far in the future is this? Now, quick, tell me what you saw. What did you see in that meditation? I was at the beach, and if you don't have it, you can always write it in because all Know Me is about is helping me communicate. Help me teach you the language of me and my future, what I want you to help me with. What are you doing in that vision of the future? Who are you with in that vision of the future? How far in the future is this vision? So it's not arbitrary. I'm not saying this vision of the future is at some arbitrary date that you are going to retire, right or wrong. And this actually a lot of advisors that use Know Me love because we're asking them to tell us what is it that you want your future to be engaged in? What kind of activities? What kind of cultural experiences? How are you planning to travel? What kind of work? What about health? How are you going to be in experiencing health in your perfect vision of the future? Now, what advisors love about this is that this also tells them what kind of events should I be planning? How many of my clients like wine tasting versus golf? And where should I actually engage? And which are those clients that care about these things? Sorry, it looks like we have a little bug. Of course, every demo has bugs. Now we ask them another open-ended question. Write a postcard to yourself from your future. And as they write that postcard, we've already prepared them to be in that version of themselves of the future, and they're really prepared. Then they get that behavioral loop again. So how many other people said they want to relax at the beach with family? And why was this important? Well, there's a lot of research that shows the more clarity you have in your vision of the future, the more motivated you are to take action on behalf of that future. So that's just another example of another adventure. They get an AI image. We explain, we play back for them what that future looks like. We give them their postcard and they claim a badge again. And now they're actually so much more ready to get into their goals. And look how cool this is. Based off of all of those prior answers, we use AI to say, here's your goals based off of what you've already shared. We've removed the friction. It's not a blank piece of paper where you ask them their goals and they're like, huh, I have no idea. Joe, what are our goals? That is a very common answer from everything that I've heard from talking with advisors for 2 years. What Nomi does is we've kind of built the breadcrumbs to make it very easy for them to articulate their goals. Let's say they want to go on a beach vacation. Tell me more about that beach vacation. When? What are the language of your motivators and your inhibitors for that goal? Now that I've got my goal, we go through assessing how ready are you to take action on this goal? Do you want to do it on your own or do you want help from your advisor? So we give them a stage of readiness for each goal. So here are several goals for this user where she has gone through and created goals, and we understand how ready is she to take action on each one of these goals. What brings her joy? What is her vision of the future? What is keeping her up at night, her hopes and dreams, her confidence? Now, what I'm super excited to show you is how does that show up for the advisor? I'm just going to make my window a bit bigger because this looks very tiny. Can everyone see the new window? Yes? Thumbs up? Is it still small? It's okay? All right, thumbs up. All right, so super easy to get started with Nomi. We don't need any data about the client whatsoever. You get a link here that would say something like nomi.com/archer/Emily. And Emily is off to the races. She can go ahead and use that link with prospects and clients immediately. So you just send that link to the client. And then over here, Nomi is tracking how many clients have actually logged into the system, how many have actually articulated their goals, how engaged are they, which have high activity. We have a confidence module. How are they feeling about their money? You can use the link for Nomi, for instance, when there is a big drop in the market and you want to understand how are my clients feeling about their money? Of my 100 clients, who's freaking out and who's actually feeling okay? You can put that in a blog and say, hey, here's a two minute, not even 2 minute, 30-second experience. Just click on this emoji. How are you feeling? And then you immediately get a heat map of your clients. How are they feeling and who needs a call from me right now? When I click into one client who went through Nomi, what I immediately get, there's no time delay, and this is the AI insights built off of all of that data collection. When I go into my next meeting with Emily, I know exactly what to say to her. I'm synthesizing the insights from that intake. So I am giving the advisor, here's 3 things that you might want to say. Here are sensitive topics and how to handle them. Here's what you need to know about Emily's values, her motivations. What are her concerns and how is she feeling about her money, her aspirations? What are her goals and which ones are new and sensitive? How are they feeling? What is her vision of the future? We have a risk adventure. What are some opportunities to retain Emily based off of what she said? What are smart tips that I could remind myself every time I have that meeting? So, for instance, Emily responds to agency, not directives. You need to kind of give her a sense that she's holding the reins here. What are the next adventures you might want to introduce based off of things that you've learned from Emily? She has said that she's interested in angel investing. We have a whole adventure based off of why? What's interesting to you about angel investing? What kind of angel investment are you interested in? How much money do you want to put in? When? All of those questions help you make this decision of how do I help her with a private market allocation? She might have just had a parent diagnosed with cancer. And with our prototypical client, that is what happened here. So, how do we help her use her money to show up for that parent? How do we help her subtract things from her life to be more present for the things that matter most to her? And every client has a tracking where we're assessing how is their relationship with money tracking over time, and how is their engagement over time. So, advisors are always kept aware of here is how I need to engage with Emily, the way that I speak with Emily. Note 2 things that we are not. We are not a financial planning tool. We are not a CRM tool. We integrate really well and deeply with those tools, and we give you the data that those tools often don't have great tools to collect. And so we complement a lot of those existing tools. We are not looking to displace them. We integrate with them, and the data can show up immediately. We have, by the way, a live integration with Orion, with Redtail. We're working on WealthBox, but we actually don't need the integration to get going. any advisor on Nomi immediately in real time can go and pull the raw data from Nomi. We give you these AI-derived insights, but you can also create your own AI-derived insights. We are giving you the data to help you build a tighter, better, lasting, more resilient connection with your client and their household. So a feature we're working on now is couples and broader next-gen households. So where you can actually give Nomi, every individual should complete Nomi. It shouldn't be done as a couple. And these insights that you see, the conversation starters would pull from both sides of the couple so that when you go into that meeting, each side feels heard. Whether one of them is the alpha, which is often the case, and they're the ones who kind of suck up a lot of the air in that meeting, doesn't matter because Nomi gave each of them the time and space to answer in their own way, on their own terms. And so your conversation starters and all of the data that you're using to drive that client's financial decisions in the future pull from everyone fairly and equally. Um, the advisor can also see exactly what the client sees. So at any moment, you can go and see, what does the client see in the Nomi platform? Well, it's here. The client doesn't see as much of those cool AI insights, but they see everything that they've done. Now, if you're a larger enterprise or even a larger RIA, we also have an opportunity where we can give you access to the API that helps you slice and dice that data over time. So there's an API store, and that API store enables you to have the finger on the pulse of your book at all times. Who cares about what? How are they changing? What is top of mind for them? All of those things are ready for you all the time. I want to pause. I want to ask if there are questions. There might have been questions in the chat as I was going through the demo. Um, Anyone want to raise their hand? Please do.
Dawn just asked, any ideas on how this can be used for generational planning, getting the children and parents involved? Yes, Dawn, like in many ways, when we were just talking about couples and being able to connect, two partners, we want the same thing for families. And so each individual person would take it. And then we now have insights not only at the individual level, but that can be like bubbled up into the family level. And, if there are themes of collaboration and, similar ideas, that could be a cool thing to discuss in a family meeting. So absolutely. Caroline just wrote,
Yeah.
the AI learning from the client answers? What type of privacy policies are in place with the data that's being collected?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So the answer is the AI, we use Anthropic, and it is really bound to the way that, so nobody can, no, the AI model is not being trained on your client, number one, first and foremost. The data is private. It's not being shared with the AI company whatsoever. The AI is suggesting a conversation starter and insights to the advisor. We have gone through, so we are live with a very large enterprise and have gone through outrageous hoops of information security and privacy. We are almost there on our SOC 2 Type 2. We have gone through all of the audits and controls and data protections and security. I used to oversee third-party risk at BlackRock and have been on the other end of kind of evaluating tech companies for a long time. So from what we heard, we flew through the infosec and risk kind of policy assessments at our enterprise because we knew what we were aiming for. Everything that Nomi has created with respect to data adheres to the utmost risk policies and data security. The client data is their data, and as they permission it to you, it's your data. We want only you and them to have this really tight, strong relationship so that the client is getting more value out of your partnership. So we will have our SOC 2 Type 2 soon, but just be rest assured that we've gone through the ringer and passed with flying colors as it related to data privacy and security and all of the policies we have in place.
Skylar just asked a really good question. She said, what's the first thing we actually do with Nomi after signing up? How quickly can we start using it with clients and seeing results?
So the answer is immediate and the results are immediate. Nomi gets you set up as an advisor. where you receive a personalized link. You get access to the advisor dashboard. In time, you can integrate it with your existing advisor dashboard. But you can get off to the races and start using it for prospecting, for preparation, for review calls, for help with onboarding onto planning, for re-engaging disengaged clients. We also have advisors who are using Nomi in order to support advisor M&A and succession. Because when you are going through an M&A or succession and any sort of advisor transition, you have a big book of clients that have a whole lot of needs. And a lot of that data is right here in the advisor that might be leaving, or maybe it was right here 30 years ago when they met that client, but the client's changed a lot. And so Nomi helps create a fresh record of how do we meet this book of clients as it's going through transition in the right way by allocating the right resources to the right clients. So we have some RIA aggregators who are using Nomi as a condition of acquisition. I want to understand the book. I want to understand how tight those clients are with that advisor. And I want to make sure that we have the right resources allocated to, and I want to make sure these are the right clients for practice. I want to make sure they're culture aligned. I want to be able to know that these clients care about a planning centric form of advice. And in order to do that, we need to know this type of deep information about them because this is where we want to meet them and take our practice going forward. So we are using it for M&A and for advisor succession as well. I think the quickest answer is you use it immediately, you get insights immediately. It's in a matter of seconds.
Marla, it's Mike Part now. Thank you first and foremost for the invitation here. This has been incredibly insightful. I think the bad news for my advisor, and I do not say this tongue in cheek, is that I think I'm now over the goal line in terms of firing my financial advisor, because if over the past 10 years you asked him about me or my family, I think he would recite my latest performance report there. And I love the fact that that Nomi starts with the word joy. And I also love Meg's shirt here. There's an inscription here. I'm just going to read it to the group quickly. That's in my living room. It's by John Lennon, and I'm sure everybody knows who John Lennon is. It says, "When I was 5, my mother always told me happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life." So I think that it's really impactful and no better than John Lennon to articulate the amazing work that you're doing. But my question is, so we're talking a lot about next gen, and I think I shared with you the other day also that my daughter would define our financial advisor as creepy just because he doesn't speak her language, and it's a bit odd to her that he picks up the phone and does all these things that doesn't resonate with her. Meg, is there, outside of forging a relationship with Nomi, which I will do, what's the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit? Like, what makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up when you hear an advisor engage with an investor? Like, is there something tactical that we can immediately take away outside of learning more about Nomi?
So you're just to make sure I'm answering the right question. So you're asking, like, as a client of a financial planner, like, what's the thing that you should ask?
More so, sorry, as a financial planner, right, on the sell side, like, what's something that you go, oh my gosh, that is so avoidable. That's just such a quick fix outside of above and beyond engaging directly with Nomi.
In specific, Michael, for next gen engagement, I wonder if Emily, you might have a thought on that. And I think if you're kind of just looking at the baseline of, my daughter got a creepy call. She doesn't call me. She doesn't call anyone. She doesn't want to be on the phone with anyone. Why is my advisor calling her? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder, like, what are your thoughts of like the low hanging next gen
That's
engagement?
exactly right. Like, what is that low hanging fruit where you're like, this was such a quick fix for us in our process?
I think that From an engagement perspective, so we actually don't have my phone number published anywhere because we operate fully virtually, and we text with our clients and email with them, and so we bring our clients' children into the fold with things that we do and engage. I can't think of one thing that advisors do wrong, other than um, things that they might do that exclude the kids from the planning process or decisions when talking to the adult, when talking to, I guess, talking to the parent. So I think that the more that you help equip the client with the conversational tools with their kids, I think the better that the parent is then going to engage with the kid, and the better that the kid is going to be engaged with the process. And that's really kind of where we can kind of come in and add some significant value, is maybe sometimes generationally people don't know how to talk about money and don't know how to talk about that with their children, or have different scripts in their head about how money is to be talked about. And so I think that sometimes some of the things that make me go, ooh, are hearing clients talk about how they talk to their kids about money, because I ask those questions too. And I can't give you an example right now, but there's just things I've heard,
No,
like, oh,
that's
that's how you talk to your kids about money. So I think helping and training them is kind of, if they know how they think about money and why, and if they learn how to set goals and think about their values and think about their biases, they're going to have better conversations with their kids, which is in turn going to say, hey, you taught my parents how to talk better about money, or how to enjoy it and not hoard it, or how to do whatever, I might visibly see as being a shift or a change in their dynamic. I think that that's something that Nomi or other behavioral finance tools can help us kind of then soften them to make those conversations better to the next generation.
super helpful. Thank you.
Michael,
Super.
I would also just answer that most advisors immediately start, like, get off the ground with Nomi, and Emily can also answer how they started with Nomi. So they immediately start using it in preparation for the next review meeting and during onboarding. And so they use the link, and it is the lowest hanging fruit. It's like, hey, before we go into the next meeting, here's a link. It's going to take you less than 10 minutes, and it will help us get into that next meeting with a lot more prep. And that link can be shared with both partners and the broader household super easily.
Right, right. I'll just throw in one little piece of research. I was just listening to a presentation the other day that was being done by First Trust, and they had asked parents and they had asked kids, like, do you want to talk about money? Or like, who should be talking, who should initiate these conversations? And it was like the same on, like, you have all these kids that want to talk about it, and you have all these parents that want to talk about it, but neither one of them know how to talk about it. And so they are relying on their advisor, much to what Emily was saying, and exactly what Marla is saying, that the advisor can oftentimes be that sort of transitional space where, whether you're using Nomi and, like, sending out a couple of links and, coalescing this information to have, an actual conversation with both generations, or you just know that both generations want to know, and you say, well, then, hey, let's have a meeting where we can get everybody together. That's fine. That if the advisor is sort of that bridge, and everybody kind of knows why we're talking about these things, like, that is super, super important.
I know we're at time, and I want to be respectful. I just want to thank Meg and Emily. I should have said this at the very beginning. We are going to be having quarterly roundtables focusing on different topics related to behavioral finance and growing your business. So these are going to be every single quarter. You're always welcome to join us. There will be slightly different topics. We're going to go into deep dives into the different adventures that we introduced through Nomi, and we want your questions. The things that you can take as takeaways are, there is an interactive demo link in the chat where you can actually, on your own time, just click through and see the client experience and the advisor experience. There's also a case study that Emily has helped us promote about Archer. And there's a website where you can learn about Nomi. Finally, if you're interested in testing it yourself and going through the Nomi experience and seeing the AI insights on you, about you, we can help you do that as well. I can give you the link to my advisor site on Nomi. You can go through the experience and see if you want to introduce it to your clients. So you can actually embed more deep holistic planning into your practice and drive more resilience and growth, more upsell, more cross-sell. I've got a little bit of time if anyone has additional questions, but those are the calls to action. We'd love for you to check out the links. We would love for you to try it yourself. and then show up to our next quarterly and ask us any questions you have. We do also have, I should mention one more thing, a live promotion on now for the month of September. So we have cut our onboarding fee in half. It is generally $1,200. It's now $600. And the cost of NOMI is $100 per advisor per month. So we want to keep it very reasonable. It's $100 a month. You can use it for up to 25 clients each month. So we want you to cover your whole book. If you're going through an advisor transition or succession and need to get hundreds of clients in there, then we work with you and we figure out how to make that happen. Any questions? And thank you, everyone, for showing up and asking great questions. And to Meg and Emily. Okay, I'll do a last call. All right. Thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next quarter.